Hey guys, welcome back to another video in the series I'm Turning 30. My name is Mitch, and this is a series where I talk about my life, whether that's things that have happened in the past, things that are happening right now at present, or things that will happen in the future, maybe even a mixture of all three. And as you can see today, we're going to talk about death. As many of you watching know, death is a very divisive subject, and many people have many different feelings towards it, at least as far as I'm aware. There are many different directions people say that you go after you die, how they feel about it during life, and when it should come for certain people. But it is something constant that we all do share, is that it will one day come for us all. Death is something that we have in common as human beings and as living creatures. Now, for those of you that have watched this series and watched some of my other videos, you may have a inkling about what I kind of think about death. I obviously grew up very religious and was kind of told that after death there would be a afterlife, and if you lived the correct, righteous way that God wanted you to live and did all the correct things while you were here on earth, you would have this wonderful afterlife, and that death is nothing to be feared. So yeah, I had that religious upbringing that kind of told me that there was some type of afterlife, and then with my mental health struggles that I've had that I mentioned in other videos as well, it was like there was like this better afterlife, and so death really was something I was never scared of. Not for the reasons that I was necessarily taught, but because I knew that whatever is kind of going on in my head and how I feel as a human being and what's going on in my brain and the chemicals not chemicaling, I knew that there would be something better for me. So growing up, I didn't have that fear, and now that I am kind of past that state and I am no longer really religious and don't really have that belief system, I still have kind of carried on my nonchalantness about death. But I will say there have been times now that I kind of have this different perspective and I'm not just kind of following along with what I was taught and not really like critically thinking about it. There have been moments in my life where I've thought I need to make sure that I try to make it to this time or this year or this day or push on to tomorrow, and just kind of like giving myself this extra motivation to like be a better version of myself and try to mentally overcome my mental illnesses. I'm still not really scared of death, but my obviously view on it has changed. And honestly, having the different viewpoint of not knowing if there is actually anything afterwards has definitely given me different feelings that I had never felt before, when I was kind of just be like, if I died, I'll still be chill and I can kind of live however because it'll just be chill afterwards and I don't have to worry about anything. I've had a much different, like, broader worldview now that I've thought that, like, this might be it. That includes reaching out to people, doing things, learning things, experiencing things, understanding who I am and, like, what death plays a part in. And I think death is, like, such a beautiful thing. When I started thinking about it, like, it really has, and I understand why it does for people, push them to do certain things because you don't know when it's going to come and what you'll be able to do. Like, I want to be around to see these things happen and experience them, and I want to go to these places, and obviously once death happens I will not be able to. So it really is like this pushing factor, like I want to do all these cool things before I die. Because at this point in my life I'm at kind of at a who knows stage. And while that does sometimes scare me, and I've had a couple of days where I've like really overthought about it, where my mental health was like really bad and I was like kind of spiraling since I have had my switch in beliefs. But feeling those emotions, I also had to realize wasn't a bad thing, and that it was normal, and that I needed to process those things and not kind of view death as a nothingness type of feeling, like if it comes, it comes. I feel like me getting to a point where I have a love-hate, I guess, relationship with death and whenever it comes and how it'll happen, that's made me, I think, grow deeper emotions as a person and really like think about just life and what I want to do and the relationships that I have. And I also want to sprinkle this seedling in here. Since I was a kid, I remember thinking about the idea of reincarnation before I knew it was called that. For some reason in my head when I was little, that seemed like a very plausible thing to me, that like your soul kind of like gets transferred to something else that is living. Not saying that's necessarily what I believe in now, but it is something that like I've thought like your soul, your consciousness, your energy, your whatever you want to call it after you die, like does still exist somewhere. And I've always liked the idea of reincarnation and being reincarnated based on kind of how you lived your life. Now, again, there's no proof that this happens, but it is something that I thought of when I was a kid, like little, that would be cool if it happened when you died. Like thinking that I might have been some type of animal or great person or just average person before this is really intriguing to me. I will say, still based on how I live my life and how I'm looking now, I do think that I will not get to the ripe old ages of 80 and 90. I think if I'm lucky, I'll make it to my 70s, but my guess is somewhere in the 50s to 70s is where I will be personally when I die, if I don't die from some accident. That's when I would die of old age or some health problems, is my guess. Even though I don't have a lot of health problems now, and there's not really a whole lot in my family's, just again, just a feeling that I have of that's kind of like when my time would be age wise if no accident happened to me. That's also wild for me because most of my family is very healthy, and I am turning 30, and a lot of my grandparents, aunts, uncles, everybody that I know is getting older as well. And I have not been to a whole lot of funerals, especially for people dying of old age. The grandparents that are in my life that I am aware of are all still alive. I haven't really known anybody, any of my friends or their families. I just haven't been close to anyone who's really passed away. Of course, I've known people that have. There are a couple of people in my family that have, but again, just not something that I am familiar with and like relate to as much as other people. Like a lot of people have their grandparents die when they're in high school or their early 20s or even earlier. Just like I feel like a lot of people have like these aspects of death and they see it and it affects their life. And I feel like it just has not touched my life as much as it has other people's, just comparatively, and not like a competition or anything. Just like I only have a couple. So yeah, that could also be a part of the reason I have the perspective and opinions that I do around it, just because it's not something that I've really had to deal with and see and feel when somebody leaves. I just haven't had to feel that a whole lot. But yeah, that's going to be it for this week, guys. Let me know if I missed something regarding death that you wanted me to talk about, and I'll respond to you down in the comments down below. And if you made it this far in the video and you haven't already, please check if you are subscribed and like the video. I really, really do appreciate it. And again, like I said last week, it is the final month of videos, so anything you want to hear me talk about, anything you want me to touch on, either comment it, send me something so I can get to it and address it in the series or in the comments. I really do appreciate you guys. Thank you so, so much for sticking around and watching all these videos. I do appreciate it. And I'll see you guys again next week. Peace.